All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's talk about solar and Austin Energy bill credits. Mhm. Okay, so solar bill credits and incentive programs. So for solar bill credits, these are for all solar customers. It's an on-bill credit. We call it the value of solar. In Austin Energy territory, we do not have net metering. And more on that soon. And for our incentives programs, these are by application only. So you will have to apply, contractors apply on the applicant's behalf. And we do have residential, commercial, and multifamily options. All right, so how do solar bill credits work? All right, like I said, there is no net metering in the Austin Energy territory, so solar customers will receive the value of solar tariff. Just a quick reminder, y'all, please make sure that you are muted. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so customers, yes, they will have value of solar, no net metering. And they don't need to apply for this value of solar. It's going to be already on their bill once they interconnect. Um, and this is independent of the rebate programs. So basically, how does it work? We credit the solar production 100%. So right off of the roof, we are buying 100% of the solar that is being produced. The flip side of that is that they are going to have 100% of their on-site consumption is going to be charged at the regular rate, just like a regular non-solar customer. So their consumption does, we are charging them just like a regular non-solar customer. So every 3 years is when we are able to adjust these rates, but they are assessed every year. So we do look at these numbers. We're just unable to change them until like 3 years. So 2023 was the last time. 2026 is where we will evaluate changing that if we do so in the future. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so how to work with solar bill credits. We definitely need you all to talk to your customers and make sure that they are educated on the value of solar. So here are some three resources that you can point them at. We have the Austin Energy website, we have our solar education course, and then we have a bill explainer. So these can all be found on the Austin Energy website. You can find the value of solar writer. We do, if your customer is a residential customer, they will have to take the solar education course, but we do encourage everyone to take it. It's really helpful, has a lot of information. And then again, the bill explainer, it's going to show you pretty much what it looks like on your bill, what the value of solar will look like. All right, next slide. Okay, so incentives. This is our incentive structure for residential and multifamily. So for residential, we do incentivize system sizes that are 3 kW and above. This is a flat one-time check at the end of the project. And then for multifamily, it's we do have like our nonprofit and then our regular multifamily customers. For nonprofit, it's 100 cents, $1. And then for regular is 60 cents. The multifamily is the system size times the rebate level. It's going to be one check at the end of the project as well. All right, next slide. Okay, so commercial solar incentives. So if you've been with us for a while, you know that we have had two programs. For a while there, capacity-based incentive was on a pause, but it has now been reopened as of Monday. So if you are looking at working with some nonprofits or those smaller system sizes, then the CBI program might be something you can look into. It has been reopened, and if you're in EECP, you should be able to see that as an option on the dropdown. We did update the rebate level, so for nonprofits, it's 70 cents. Small business is still at 50, but the system size is now 100. It was 75. And then, so for our larger projects, we have the performance-based incentive. So medium, large, extra large. The big difference about these two is that the capacity-based is a one-time check at the end of the program. And then the performance-based is a on-bill credit, sort of like the VOS, and we'll dig into it a little bit more, but it's 5 years on-bill credit. All right, next slide. Okay, so the customer incentive program capacity is again, it was just opened on Monday, so the tier 4 for commercial CBI is at 0%. We have a ton of capacity still open there. And for the PVI, we're at 18%. Sorry, just remind yourselves to mute. All right, so PVI, yes, we are at 18%, so there also is plenty of capacity there. And just a reminder that we will encumber your project, but we do need to make sure that all your documentation is in place. Once you get an LOI, you won't get an LOI until all your documents are in place. After you receive that LOI, if the system size changes, that's all right, but your rebate amount will not increase. So that is the rebate number on the LOI. That's what we're promising. All right, next slide. All right, and I think back to you, Ruby.
Thanks, Athena. Okay, so what do you need to do to become a participating solar contractor with Austin Energy? All right, so obviously first you have to register with the City of Austin as a vendor. Registering allows you to participate in Austin energy rebate programs and bid on City of Austin projects. For our rebate program application, some required documents include Solar Contractor Handbook. As you might have seen, we updated our contractor handbook and sent that out via email. This needs to be re-signed by January 16th, 2025. And thank you for all of you who have already sent those in. We are collecting them. So if you do need that resent, just reach out to solar@austinenergy.com. Some other required documents include code of conduct, your electrical license, workers' comp liability, and auto insurance. Another requirement is attending our solar meetings like this one. We have our general, technical, and admin meetings. So thank you for attending. That's, one check. Some ongoing requirements to maintain participating contractor status, making sure that your documents are current. This includes insurance and your program documents. Making sure that you are attending meetings, having consistent projects, adhering to compliance, and keeping employee and resource inbox emails up to date for contacts, and complying with FACTA, which we will get into. And yes, we are going to send out this a PDF version of this slide deck, so you'll have access to all the links and these slides. All right, Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act, FACTA. What is FACTA? Federal act mandating businesses and individuals to take appropriate security measures to protect customer information against unauthorized access to or use of information. And just a reminder to mute. Some security measure examples: truncate credit and debit card numbers, limit access of customer information to authorized personnel, create an environment where the data is safe from prying eyes. What is FACTA data? Any record about individual, whether in paper or electronic, including but not limited to your name, social security number, phone number, physical address, and email address. Those responsible parties are Austin Energy and its vendors and contractors. So make sure that you're renewing that training annually. So we will reach out to you once that FACTA is expired. Questions? Thank you, Megan, for answering that question. Up to you, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Life of the solar project. So what is the process in Austin? The process begins with using the portal, the ECP portal. The process steps through here, you're going to need to have a reference number, a solar ED reference number, customer agreement form, a system layout. And the key here is that the customer needs to receive a letter of intent, a rebate confirmation letter. If they don't receive that letter, there's going to be a problem with receiving a rebate later. So please ensure they understand that, and that you understand that if you proceed with the project before that letter is received, there could be complications and problems. Next is permitting. The A, B, and C portal is available. That's where you'll get your permits from. You're going to need to get permits for auxiliary power, electrical permit, and distributed general planning application. You're going to move into the installation phase after permitting is done. You may have complications or needs for service rebuilds from an electrical perspective. There's going to need to be some rough inspections. You can schedule these pre-construction meetings similarly. And then there may be some variances related to meter approvals. The inspection process, the more formal one, you'll need to coordinate that with the inspection request form. Though they can come out and inspect your system as you proceed and get to a completion, and ultimately it'll confirm that the permit is paid in full, or you'll need to confirm that the permit is paid in full. Again, these must be scheduled. Metering after the final inspection is completed, our process will trigger the metering process so that we can get that done 5 to 10 business days after passing the final inspection, and then ultimately the system will be energized. Closing out, there's some processes that take place on the inside from an Austin Energy perspective. The EECP QAC, I don't remember what that acronym stands for off the top of my head. Solar billing, we'll handle that on the inside, and then loan closing documents will be something that'll be happening on the customer side. Next slide, please. So if you are doing a large scale project, something that is going to be 500 kilowatts or greater, something that will qualify as a commercial project, you will do everything we just discussed, and then you'll have to ensure that once you've done, or I say you'll do the DGPA application, the distribution planning application, but you will also need to do a feasibility study because of the size of the project. So keep that in mind. It will add some complications to this. You'll have to have insurance documents. There'll be electrical drawings involved. It will be a little bit more complex due to the size of the project. I believe that's it. Thank you very much. Who's next? Ruby?
Thanks, Michael. All right, program documents, program guidelines, and our customer agreement form. All right, so our program guidelines, the purpose is to outline the procedures and qualifications for the Austin Energy Rebate Program. The guideline scope include eligibility and funding, participating solar contractor obligation, installation requirements, required documentation. And then for the CAF, customer agreement form, the purpose is to confirm important information about the solar installation and rebate program, and making sure that that has been communicated accurately to your customer. The scope includes contractor information, customer information, solar project information, and Austin Energy rebate information. All these documents are available online on the homepage of EECP, which Athena will go into shortly. All right, some frequently asked questions. Participating solar contractors are required to release customers from contractual obligations upon request without penalty anytime prior to the issuance of the LOI or solar rebate confirmation letter. Subcontractors are permitted, but the participating solar contractor must hold the contract with the customer, pull applicable permits with the City of Austin DSD, and the system must be sited in a location where the minimum average of 75% of the total solar resource fraction is available to the system. Then our CAF form. Some frequently asked questions about that. Customers must initial agreements. Subcontractors are allowed, but must be disclosed to the customer. customers are required to take the Solar Ed course and exam prior to signing that contract. You'll need their confirmation number in the CAF. If the estimated system production is more than 110% of the customer's consumption, the oversizing waiver section of the CAF must be completed. And you have to indicate if batteries are included in the total system costs. And then for commercial, if there are any if there is a primary contractor, they must sign in addition to the customer, make sure that you fill out the AC and DC system size, and the incentive amount must match EECP. Any questions? Looks like we have some in the chat, but Athena and Megan are answering them.
Ruby, I was going to pause just to address Chris Roth's question, if I could. So
of course,
I'll just read it out for the group. Can we get a new rebate on a church when panels are bad, and saying we need to redo the electrical and how it was tied in, maybe even main panel 3-phase, as main breaker may not be able to be added. Projects that have been rebated since 2018 are no longer eligible to receive an additional rebate. So if the church was originally rebated, as long as it was prior to 2018, you can still apply. Yeah, I think hopefully that addresses your question, but if you have additional questions, Chris, please feel free to follow up or send us an email at solar@austinenergy.com.
Thanks, Megan.
All right, and then, yeah, I do see another one. Go ahead, Ruby.
Sorry, I do see that David has a question about filling out the forms online and instead of downloading them. Yeah, so they should be fillable forms. We do require that for the CAF specifically, like you do need people to be signing them. We do accept an electronic signature or a wet signature. And we currently do not have battery rebates at this time. We are working on those things, and as soon as we have an update, we will notify you all. But if a project is already has solar and then they're adding batteries, we do not have that program quite yet. But like I said, keep your eyes opened, keep tuned in. We will let you know.
Thanks, Athena, and thanks, Megan.
All right, so how to process enrollments using EECP. Okay, so EECP, you've heard us say this a couple of times. It stands for Energy Efficiency Collaboration Platform, and this is where we have all of the rebates. So if your client is looking for a rebate, you will have to go in here and submit it for them. So this is what it looks like when you first log into EECP. We've got announcements, so anything important there. Publications, there was a question in the chat about where to find them. So here are the publications. There are also some other things that are helpful, such as like the step-by-step EECP Resi Solar Guide. So that one's really helpful. Definitely take a look. The other thing is that the confirmation letter or the LOI will go through this platform. You'll get it through EECP. So the best practices for logging in is to have a resource account. Our next best practice is to have one login per person. So make sure that you are not sharing individual accounts. That is the worst practice. We do want to make sure everybody has their own, or again, the resource count. So what if you can't log in? Couple issues for logging in. Most common, insurance expiration. So if your insurance expires within 30 days, we do send out a reminder, but if it does expire, your system will be locked out until we get an update. Password changes. So if your password changed, that might be a reason. And then the last one is that inactivity after 30 days. If you do not log in within 30 days, your account becomes inactive. So how do you fix these issues? Austin Energy EES Contractor at austinenergy.com. That's the email. Please email them and they will help you out and get you all set up. All right, so that is EECP. It's logging in. All right, so for a residential solar rebate program, how does this work? So first things first, we need your client to go on and take the education course and pass the quiz. Once they pass the quiz, they will give you a reference number. That reference number needs to be on the CAF. So the customer agreement form, CAF for short, is where you'll have that number, the reference number, along with system details, customer details, and signatures. Once we get that information, then we will review it, and you're going to get a confirmation letter. This is when you're good to install. Please do not install before that. We cannot rebate or incentivize if you do not have this letter of confirmation. So receiving this letter, then you're able to install. After installation, we do a little bit more paperwork, and then we can issue that rebate. So I'm just going to say it one more time because it is in a box, very fancy. We cannot incentivize if we do not get that letter of confirmation out first. All right. So within EECP, this is sort of the workflow steps that you'll see. So the application page is owned by the contractor, and that is where you're inputting information, you're uploading the CAF and other related documents, and then you're also entering measures into the measures page. This is where it's basically system details. There are some calculations that do come into play, so please just make sure that you're looking at those. After we review and approve it, this is where we have a pre-inspection that is owned by Austin Energy. And we will, again, we're doing a review, and this is where we send out that confirmation letter. This is the commitment from Austin Energy to fund the $2,500. After that, like I said, you're good to install. Within EECP, we do have that installation step, and this is where if you're a new build, you're going to enter in a new account number and the meter number. This is also where if anything changes, like there's a layout situation or something like that, please upload it there. We also need a final invoice, and this needs to be signed. Make sure that it's signed by the applicant. And then, yeah, like I said, any changes, please upload in there, close it out, and then you'll need to request an inspection. Requesting an inspection is outside of EECP. So to request an inspection, please go to austinenergy.com/solar inspections. This is, there'll be a form. We have recently been able to do this in Amanda, and so we are doing double time right now, but if these things change, we will let you know. All right, so after you request the inspection, then we have, you've passed the final inspection. We'll go into post-inspection just to do a verification. Then there is some QA. We review the documentation. If there are any corrections, we'll go into a corrections loop. And this is where we will reach out to you. You know, maybe there's a different document, something's going on. We will reach out to you. So just make sure that your emails are correct. And then last, after it all looks good, we will initiate payment. So those are the steps for residential workflow. Next slide. All right, so commercial, a little bit different. For the commercial, we do, you can take the quiz if you want, but that one is not required for this program. We do have the CAF, and then there will be an encumbrance period. So this is where we give you 180 days to get a signed contract and an approved DGPA. We know that there is a little bit more time for commercial projects, so we do want to give you that grace period. Afterwards, if your project is over 74K, we do have to do a little bit more paperwork. And so this is per year. So if you're going through PBI, it's per year. If it's CBI, it's the 74K. So we do have to do a little bit more review. Afterwards, then we have the letter of an intent to fund. So this is like the confirmation letter for residential. This is your okay to install. After you get that letter, you're good to install. And same caveat as last time, please do not install before the letter of intent. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is same format for residential. How does it look like in EECP? So we've got our workflow steps. The same thing is the application step. That's where you're gonna receive your encumbrance. And this is sort of your like soft launch to getting them the last minute paperwork so that we can give you the LOI. In well, if there is council approval, there is a step called RCA that we will review. Afterwards, we'll again do some more review. And the pre-inspection step is where you will receive your LOI. So now the funding is secured. After that, you're good to install. During that step, please make sure that you upload, again, final invoice signed and any changes that you made. If you're a new build, you will need to enter an account number and meter number. Same goes as for residential as commercial. Make sure that you do request inspection and it does not happen within EECP. It will be outside of EECP. So austinenergy.com/solar inspections. Please check that out. Afterwards, we will do some review, making sure that the final inspection went like we saw that it did. There will be a QUA review, another correction loop if we need it, and then the last bit is initiating payment. And so you'll either start your incentive on the bill, or it will be a final check, depending on whether it's CBI or PBI. Right. How to process residential enrollments. Okay. So if in EECP, you'll start a new application and it looks something like this. I remember I talked about the reference number. This is where you're going to enter it. And then also information here. Make sure to add an account number. And then this is going to auto-populate some fields. It'll do the premise, customer information, things like that. Do a review just to see like, oh, is this your client? All right, next slide. A little bit more information, like I said, customer information, applicant information. If the mailing address is different, please just uncheck the box and add that information there. For the CBI, or sorry, for residential, it's going to be like where we send the check. So just make sure that that's a valid address that we're sending you to if it's not the same as where we are installing. All right, so also, this is where we have to see who the payee is. So they must fall into one of these categories: Austin Energy account holder, Austin Energy authorized user, a TCAD verified property owner, or a developer for, and this is for new builds. Like you need to have a W-9 for new builds. So we do allow that. Just make sure that it is one of those followings. Big, huge tip here, guys. Make sure to save. Sometimes if you put things in and then you go in and come back, it might not save. So just do yourself a favor, click on that save button. And then also another tip is that make sure to have all your signatures match and be consistent with TCAD and EECP. So just having everything kind of consistent, do a once over so that way you're not going back and forth with these signatures. All right, so a next step is to upload documents. So just a reminder that they can't be deleted. So make sure you're uploading the correct information. So the CAF layout, shade analysis if you need it, any timeline or extension requests, things like that. Please upload them here, but just do yourself a favor, check to make sure you're uploading the right things. Okay, so this is an example of a good layout. The left side here, we've got our solar modules, the ratings, type of inverters, number of modules, orientation, azimuth, all of the things, all the system details. Please make sure that they're there and they're legible. We've got our NABCEP certification. Make sure it's there. Make sure that we have accountability for who is signing off on these. Also, customer name, customer address, this stuff, make sure it's matching EECP. So if there is like unit 1, unit 2 in EECP, please put it on the layout so that we know where this thing is being installed. So yes, please just make sure, again, do a double check. Okay, so last step is the measures page. So the measure page looks like this. To edit it, just click on the white space and you'll be able to type in information. So you'll add your orientations for if you have more than one orientation, you can add it there. I think it goes up to 5 different orientations. So you should have enough space. And then also the contractor estimated annual generation and consumption. Those two are information that you're going to have on the CAF. So just like make sure to mirror those. Just take a look. And then when you're done, click process. All right, so we do have some EECP warnings. Please make sure to read them. They're important things that will kind of help save some headache for later. So if there's a low TSRF, we're going to ask for a shade analysis. So make sure that you're looking at that. If there's over or high production, over 110%, you're going to get a rating. We do, for the residential program, you do have an exception. So maybe they're getting an EV, maybe they're redoing their ducting system, things like that. Please just make sure that they're in the CAF. So, and again, like all of these warnings, they have very detailed information. Please read them. All right, and then the last big one is our dollars per watt. If it's too high, you are going to get an error. So we do understand again that like the total cost includes a battery. So this warning is more of a soft warning. And so, but I do want to call it out just because it is something that does happen often. So again, it's soft, so you can proceed through with the application, but please read it. Make sure that you're putting all your numbers in correctly. All right, next slide. Okay, so sometimes we will ask for a correction. So maybe, missing signatures, things like that. EECP will send out an automated email when we review it and put it into application incomplete. So if you see on the first picture there, application incomplete, we will put it there. We put it into the status when we're requesting something. Once you've made those changes, then please put it into requested updates complete. We won't be able to put it into our bucket. We won't be able to see it in EECP and make our review if it's not in this status. So please just make sure that you're doing a double check, changing that status, review, requested updates complete. An automatic email will be sent to us, Austin Energy, to review. All right, next slide. All right, so after all that, the application is successfully submitted when you receive the confirmation letter or an LOI if you're doing commercial. But this is more or less what it looks like. You will see that number there. This is your sign that it's good to install. All right, any questions?
You mentioned that minimum tilt 5 degrees. I didn't know that you guys did not rebate a flat installation. Should there be one?
Yes, that is correct. The big thing here, guys, is that we want to incentivize systems that are going to be able to produce well. So that is one of the things that we do have in our guidelines. If you all want to review, and I can drop the guidelines in the chat, but more or less the big long list is in our guidelines and in the CAF. So yes, we do have that 5-degree tilt minimum. All right, great. Any other questions? I think we're good to move on. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's jump into solar rebate program compliance. Next slide, please. All right. As far as the do's and don'ts of contractor sales and proposals and customer signatures, you guys are probably pretty familiar with this already, but I'll go ahead and read through a few of these. So do calculate your payback using the value of solar credits. Don't use net metering. We do not use net metering in Austin Energy territory. If you've got questions about that, of course, feel free to reach out to solar@austinenergy.com. But just know that we will credit all solar production and bill all consumption on the property. So that is how that looks. Note that VOS is subject to change with the utility rate evaluation. I think our next evaluation is in 2026, so it shouldn't change for a while, but it is a rolling average for the past 3 years. So just something to keep in mind if you are curious about how that value of solar credit is calculated, or is decided rather. For the investment ITC, investment tax credit, do encourage customers to seek advice on eligibility from a tax professional, particularly with the Inflation Reduction Act and the additional tax credits that are available. Make sure that customers are looking to find those answers from the right folks. Don't include discounts and incentives on your eligibility costs or guarantee eligibility of tax credits. Obviously, we don't want to promise anything that we can't deliver on, so please do not add that to your proposals. In terms of customer signatures, we do prefer handwritten signatures. Don't backdate your forms, because as soon as you do that, we will find it and see it and ask you to get that re-signed. So if, for example, you've got a customer that's taken the quiz after signing the CAF, we'll ask you to get that re-signed. Please just let them know not to do that. We also prefer you to use a verifiable tracking method. So DocuSign, I think Adobe also has this, timestamps so that we can have electronic signature verification. Again, don't have the customer sign a document before you fill in the information. That's exactly why we use those verifiable tracking methods, so that we know exactly when that information is getting to that customer. All right, do provide a new signature if you've made any changes to the document after signing. So let's say they sign the CAF and then you guys decide the system size needs to be larger. Please have them sign a new CAF. Don't alter any information after the customer is signed. That's just basic contracts 101. Please don't alter any of these forms after the fact. And then, of course, don't copy and paste signatures. They are not the same as electronic signatures. They will not be accepted. Alrighty, next slide, please. Shade analyses. So you should do a shade analysis in person and on site. So your analysis should include displays where measurements are taken by drones or flight paths and which identify objects emitted from the report. It should also note your tilt and azimuths. Those should match what has been listed in EECP. Shade access and TSRF measurements at each location. So again, you're going to be walking all over the roof, looking at the different array locations and making sure that that is completely covered. Or rather completely not covered, I guess, since we're talking about shade analysis, no pun intended there. The total average TSRF should also be present on that shade analysis. And then also, of course, the kilowatt hour production of the system, or the anticipated kilowatt hour production of the system. To avoid warnings, these should always be above 75% for rebated projects. And please provide those shade analyses within 10 business days if we request it. So if we've got an issue with one and we ask you to provide a shade analysis to make sure that that's over 75 TSRF, then please do just turn that around in 10 business days and we won't have any issues there. All right, next slide, please. Build better certification standards. So one thing that you guys have probably noticed is that we have revised some of our documentation for rebates for 2025 or fiscal year 2025 and onward. So that's part of why you guys are having to sign the new handbook agreement and submit that by January 16th. As part of that initiative, we are also looking at the Build Better certification standards. This is something that applies already, I believe, to City of Austin projects, and is something that we're going to be considering in terms of compliance and making sure that projects on site are as safe as they possibly can be, and looking to give the best customer service we possibly can. So just keep this in mind for the future. If you guys are curious about what it is, feel free to go look it up. And of course, reach out to us with any questions. Alrighty, next slide, please. Okay. So as Ruby mentioned earlier, we do have a new solar compliance contractor handbook. One thing we really want to call out, because we have noticed this in the past, and we've noticed it recently as well, is that for all solar programs, it's prohibited to install before the application has been received and approved by Austin Energy. Any solar installations completed before the application approval are subject to a 1-year contract suspension for all solar programs. Again, we take this really seriously. We want to make sure that we are able to review those applications before the materials get installed. And if you install before you receive an approval on a rebate, it is likely that you will invalidate that rebate. So make sure that that's happening. If you're not sure ever about whether or not you have approval, just reach out to us at solar@austinenergy.com and we can let you know the exact status of your rebate. That said, one more quick notice to just please re-sign these and send them in by January 16th, 2025. That way we can keep all of your documents current and everybody's good to go in EACP. Does this apply to any and all rebate programs? I'm just going to answer that one really quick. Yes, it does. Basically, Destiny, what we're saying is that we want to make sure that we can review applications prior to that system going up and approve it prior to that system going up. When that does not happen, it invalidates that rebate, and that is across the board. So yeah, please do get LOIs and or approvals prior to installing. I do see a couple other questions. So yep, no worries. Let me scroll up a bit and go through here. Where can we find current VOS for proposals? That is online. Looks like Athena's provided that. So thank you, Athena. Are we required to get DISCO on overhead services? Jamika, please send us an email on that because I think we'd want to look specifically at your project to see if that makes sense. So email us at solarinspections@austinenergy.com and we'll get you an answer back to that one. Chris, I see your next question. Could we possibly change a church to a virtual system ground mount if we have some donated land all around Austin and can build a power plant remote and allow many small installers to install and offer bids? Hope I don't break a law asking this. I'll just say no law is broken, so you're in the clear there. I just off the top of my head think it sounds viable, although keep in mind you can't sell kilowatt hour contracts in Austin Energy territory. That is something that is exclusive to us. However, you may really want to look at the solar standard offer and consider, potentially building that project into that program. It sounds like it might be probably your best bet for what you're trying to accomplish there. But again, I would just ask, please, Chris, feel free to follow up offline, send us an email at Solarat, and then we can get more specific into the details of this program or this project.
If I can just real quick jump in.
Yeah, go ahead,
Chris.
Athena, please.
We have had this question before, and the long and the short of it is that virtual metering for commercial projects are not quite there yet in our billing system. And I'm not too sure about the details in that front, but we have had that question before. So Megan is absolutely correct. Standard offer is probably the way that you'd like to go. And so we definitely highly suggest putting that in there. I did see somebody ask about how you can get information on that. So I will drop the email in the chat. If you email us, it's the standard offer email. We'll get you on the list and send you out that link later today. Thanks.
I was kind of hoping you'd keep going.
Sorry.
I do see a couple more questions.
Oh, I do see. Oh, sorry.
You want to tackle those? Yeah, go ahead.
Looking for the email. Okay. Where can I find the VOS rate calculation formula? Yes. So we have our VOS rider on our website also. Okay, I'm going to have to drop that one also in the chat, but it's on our website. And that is where you can see what our past VOS have been and how you see that it has kind of risen up. But that information is on our VOS rider. Okay, next one. Can rebates be claimed for builders building new homes with solar? So if you are a developer, we do have a pathway to do so. And there is if you go onto EACP, we do have a step-by-step for new builds on how to go about doing that. And then, okay, for the Tesla backup switch, do you need to pull, do you need to pull a repair permit to be able to schedule the shutdown? Or do we use the AEAS permit? Megan is the permit guru. I'm going to say that I believe you do need to pull the shutdown, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'll just say the Tesla backup switch is like one exception. And Joe, honestly, we're learning a little bit more about what work can be done under the AEAS permit. But this is a good example of something that you should be able to do under that permit. So instead of pulling the repair upgrade to do that work, you should be able to do an AEAS permit, get that approved by design, have a field consultation to get that installed, and then continue on with the solar inspections. Schedule inspection through the city of Austin, or do we schedule solar inspection with AE? It's with AE. And Joel, I'm sorry, I know this is going to get a little fuzzy here, but your solar inspection or your inspection for the Tesla backup switch would happen with AE, but it would not be with our team. Basically, with that AEAS permit, you're going to reach out to design. Design is who you're going to work with to get that inspection scheduled. And it would be somebody at metering, basically coming to look at it, make sure everything's good, and then finaling out the solar after that. All right, is there a link for the updated contractor handbook? Looks like you just provided that potentially. If not, then we'll get back to that one. Okay, yeah, solar standard offer. Perfect. Thank you, thank you.
Sorry, y'all. Please keep
Go ahead.
me. I'm sorry. I'm putting links in the chat, so apologies for all the drop-ins, but I will continue to do so. We can move on with the presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Sounds good. I'm like, Athena, I think you're up next, so take it away.
I am up next. All right, y'all. Links to the contractor handbook are again on the website. So, and I'll pull that in real quick. And then I'll also be talking to you about how to process the installation step. All right, next slide. Okay, so in the installation step, this is the next time that the contractors will be able to, edit EECP. So this is where if something changed, please put it in there. Also, if the layout changed, send us a new upload of the layout. And this is your last chance to change anything. So if you don't do it now, we're going to go back into the QA step and there will be some back and forth. So just take yourself a moment here. If anything changed, click on the white space and update it there. All right, so what does an invoice look like? So the best thing about this is that we have a signed copy. The person who signed the CAF should be the one that signs this invoice. That's one thing that we're looking for. We're also looking for the date of signing. Make sure that it's after the installation complete date. We do take a look at that as well. All right, so then we also want to make sure that we have make, model, quantity, make sure that it's just an itemized list. We want it, we're looking for it, verifying within what's in EECP. So in that last step of installation, when you updated it, we're looking at that. And then if we need questions, we'll take a look. Okay, company name, customer and installation job also have to match the CAF, and then the total project cost. Last thing that's very important, 10-year warranty workmanship. We are also double checking on that front. Okay, next slide. How to request inspections and process through EECP. I believe that that's you, right? Back to you, Megan.
Sounds good. Thanks, Athena. Alrighty, so requesting an inspection, here is the old familiar process that you guys all probably know and love. So please use that solar inspections request form for solar shingles, battery storage projects. You'll fill out all of the required fields, and then some of those are conditionally required. So for example, if you choose final solar inspection, there will be additional fields that pop up that you need to fill out. Once you submit this form, we'll receive the data and schedule your inspections, and we'll send notifications at each step of that process. So once you submit the inspection request, you should get an email back letting you know that that was done successfully. Once we approve permitting, you'll get an email there as well. Once it's scheduled, you'll get that scheduled time and date. If it passes or fails, you'll get that pass email or the fail email with the deficiencies listed. And then once that meter is installed, you'll get that email as well. If AE is not the service provider, just remember that's obviously not going to be something that we go out and inspect. So please do request that through the Austin Build and Connect portal on the corresponding electrical permit. Also, just keep in mind, request final inspections only have to work as completed. It is a City of Austin ordinance violation to request inspections before you're ready, so please don't do that. Incomplete work will result in a failed inspection. And just keep in mind that you've got to maintain that pass rate of at least 70% to remain in the participating contractors program. And so far this year, looks like we're doing pretty well. Alrighty, next slide, please. Now, having said that, here is a look at the new process. This gets a little bit finicky just because for any for any permits submitted prior to 11/1 of this year, you'll follow that old process anyway. This will not be available to you, but any new permits that have been filed 11/1 or after, you'll have this option here to select the final solar inspection. What you're going to do is add comments about your availability and contact number for the day of the inspection. We're looking to possibly remove that requested date. So if you don't see it there, that's fine. That's expected. Please ignore it. We don't really need it. We'll track that in the system anyway. However, you will see the permit number, the inspection type, and then please add those comments as well. Just keep in mind, we'll continue to use the form stack form while we sort of work out the bugs of the new system. We're potentially looking at March 2025 to roll off of the smart sheet and the old process and just go with the permitting and new process. However, we'll continue to use this in the interim. So just keep in mind, if you're familiar and comfortable with it, that's great. We'll roll this over and transition in the new year. Alrighty, next slide, please. Okay, sorry for all the yellow text on this slide. I'm hoping to call out a couple, specific things here. In the new process, the way that you will do this is that you'll navigate to A, B, and C, click on My Inspections. That My Inspections tab will pull up all of the permits for which you're eligible to request inspections. You're going to select the permits for which you're ready. And then at the very bottom of that page, it's going to say Schedule Inspections. And on that next page is where you'd see the permit number, detail, and then the comment box for you to add, again, your availability and phone number for the day of. And again, once we receive this request, again, you'll receive those emails. So upon submission, whenever it's ready to be scheduled with a date and time, and pass fail deficiencies, and then also when that meter is installed. One more thing to keep in mind here, and you may see some details about these inspections in your ABNC portal as soon as you request it. Keep in mind that until it is assigned with an inspector, it is not actually assigned. So you will see the inspector name in that right-hand assigned column once it's assigned. So just keep that in mind. If there is no inspector column, if it still says AE solar inspections or electrical inspections, it is not yet scheduled. So just keep that in mind for now. Alrighty, next slide, please. Okay, some common submission errors that we see is, we continue to see a slight difference, or rather, there should be a big difference in rough-ins, pre-wires, and pre-cons. However, we continue to see those kind of being used interchangeably. So the biggest difference between a rough-in and a pre-wire is capacity. If you have capacity, if you have solar capacity going on a project, you need a rough-in for that inspection. We'll come and look at the conduit before anything gets buried or covered. If you don't have any capacity and you're just getting a building solar ready, that is a pre-wire inspection, and that is a pre-wire only permit. So just keep that in mind. The process does look a little different there. So please do make sure that if you have any questions, you're reaching out to us ahead of time at solarinspections@austinenergy.com to confirm. Otherwise, hopefully we'll be able to get those scheduled out for you. Contact person should have a phone number listed. That'll be the person that our inspectors reach out to day of and expect to be on site. You, of course, can have that number be a project manager or a scheduler, but they need to be aware of exactly where and when your electrician is going to be on site to meet our inspectors so that they can all, get that confirmed day of. Last note here, please do add your availability and contact number, not an extra email in the notes. Is as much as we love emails, that email address isn't going to help us on the day of if we're trying to track you guys down. Alrighty, next slide, please. Common permitting errors. Okay, so a couple things to look at here. For one, the very first step that we take to schedule your inspection is going to be to look and make sure there's not any outstanding repair or upgrade work that needs to be completed prior to. We like to make sure we're sort of the last group out to make sure that once that interconnection and tie-in is good and approved, that you guys are ready to turn the system on and you don't have to wait for any other inspections after that. So in order to make sure that that's true, my recommendation is to use the Open Data Portal permit search. It's a lot easier than sort of what you're probably familiar with, which is all those individual boxes asking for the number, street name, street type, etc. In the Open Data Portal, just go and plug in the address for the property that you guys will be doing work on. If it's got other electrical permits that are open, try and work with the customer to get those closed prior to scheduling that inspection. If you have questions about that, or if you're not able to do that, again, please just reach out to us and we can help you through it. But that is the biggest permitting error that I see whenever we have inspections to schedule. Other couple of things to keep in mind. What is an open permit? So anything that's in incomplete, pending, or active status, aka not in final, withdrawn, or canceled status. Things like that. Just keep those in mind. And again, if you have questions, reach out and we can hopefully help you navigate through that. Alrighty, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. Also, before scheduling that inspection, please confirm that installation step is closed. You guys have probably seen this email come back once or twice, reminding you to close this installation step. That's going to happen whenever you have an inspection requested. But our ECP, or sorry, our Smartsheet log says that the installation step is not yet closed. So it's basically going to send you a reminder until that happens. In order to close that step, you're going to fill in the actual visit date with the date you're processing the application, select work complete, answer all the mandatory questions. I believe on this step, you also upload the invoice. So make sure that all of that is completed and submitted, and then hit process at the top of the screen. Once you do that, it should move over into post-inspection, and then you're ready to schedule that inspection so that we can go and close out that rebate afterwards. Oh, one thing to keep in mind, sorry, one last thing there. If you do see this notification to update the step, but it's already closed, feel free to ignore it. That is something that we have seen a time or two, just whenever those systems get out of sync. So if you go back and check and the inspection step is closed, you can ignore that in that notification. If it's still open, please do process it and send it along. Alrighty, next slide, thank you. Invoices. So invoices should be signed by the counterparty, customer, or subcontractor. Large projects consisting of multiple interconnections or ECP applications can have a single invoice, but then please itemize the project within the invoice. This will allow us to easily match the totals of the invoice and ECP, and those totals must match. If not, again, back to what Athena was saying, we'll have to look at that again at QA review. So in order to avoid those delays and those reviews at the very end of the rebate project, please just make sure that that invoice total and invoice cost matches exactly what you see in ECP as well. Alrighty, and then one final thing here, and this really kind of belongs more so in the design section, but that's all right. We wanted to call this out to you guys and make sure you're aware of it. So when are engineer stamped plans needed? When you're inside the city, it is for tilted panels or panels not flush with the roof or extend past the roof line or on the downtown network. Whether you're inside the city or in the ETJ, it also applies to the following. So if you're attaching it to a new structure, for example, a ground mount, if you've got roof tiles, or batteries, those also will require that engineered stamped plan set. Anything over 500 kW is also going to require that. Anything that is for a commercial installation or a utility side interconnection is also going to require stamped plan sets. Keep in mind that if you are installing PV and not batteries on a residential building, then drawings stamped by a Texas mechanical engineer are fine to have on site and uploaded to AB&C. So that is maybe that one exception there. And then quick reminder, just because we had a project recently where this came up, line side taps should not happen without a meter cover. If you guys are doing a line side tap but you don't have a meter cover, do not proceed. Make sure that that is covered so it's not open and hot, or there's not a huge risk by anybody walking by that's going to touch that without that covered. So again, just something to keep in mind there. And if you guys are curious about where this information is, feel free to consult the dig on page 39. You'll find a lot of these details there. Alrighty, next slide. And I think that brings us to questions and then who to contact. So we do have a couple in here. I'll just note, Adam, so one thing that Athena had provided was a couple of emails. Looks like Ruby provided solar@austinenergy.com, and then Athena, I believe, added the solar standard offer at austinenergy.com email. Those are the emails that you're going to need to reach out to make sure that you're on any and all solar standard offer trainings. So please reach out to those emails. The next link she provided is the value of solar writer. So there's the distinction there. Have you considered solar app from NREL? I may let somebody else take that. I'm not sure. Athena, do you know the answer to that one? I mean, we've got our own solar app at AE. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so we do have so ECP is connected to PV Watts. And so we do have that connection there. I do not know what the Solar App Plus from NREL is, but if you think we should consider it, have some thoughts, you can send it to SolarApp and we can take a look.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good question. Looking at the rest of these to clarify, reference only if solar capacity is already installed on the building. I'll say already installed or being installed. Hopefully the rough-in happens prior to completion of the project. But like, for example, if you're going to put conduit in a wall, in an attic, underground, that's when you want the rough-in. Very, very early in the process, before any of the cover, any of the walls go up or any of the floorings put in. It just allows us to make sure that all the, spacing, wiring, et cetera, is right before you close it up. So before any of that gets covered, that's when you schedule the rough-in. And then after that, you would do a final inspection for the solar. Do you have a link explaining virtual solar programming coming? Missed some meetings on that. Yes. I would imagine we do. Dana? Yep, looking at you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so for virtual solar program, so we have a program called the multifamily program, which does utilize virtual meters. This is for multifamily. So if you are working with multifamilies, these are residential meters. We do have the capability of doing that. For commercial, unfortunately, that is not something that our billing system can handle at the moment. So that is not available. But if you're referring to standard offer, which is also a commercial program, then we do have the meeting tomorrow. And if you email the Solar Standard Offer email, we can send you a link to that meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, and David, I appreciate that question right there. So I'm realizing I do know what the Enroll app, Solar App Plus is. We had considered this a few months ago and determined it's not quite ready to integrate with Austin Energy City of Austin processes. However, it is something that we might consider in the future. So keep that in mind for now. Feel free to, again, like Athena said, email us if you've got questions. But yes, I apologize. I was mixing that up in my head, but yeah, we're aware of it and looking into it. And then just going back to Philip's question, so pre-wire is essentially speculative or making the house solar ready. Exactly that. So you got that right. And with that, I will pass it over to Michael.
Sorry, having problems with my mute button. So after you've left this meeting and you realize you had a further question or you need more information or you're in the middle of a project and you need to figure something out, we've got some helpful links and contacts here for you. One key thing is that the solar education that's required is offered both in English and Spanish, as listed here. You must be on the contractor list, so you need to make sure that that is kept updated. The participating solar contractor list link is there. There's some other things here related to the solar rebates and inspections. If you have, there's some common project answers that you may want to look at and try to get answers to out of the commercial incentive programs link. So you might look there before you reach out to us and see if you can find the information you're looking for those specific ones. Next page. If you're new, make sure that you are registered as a vendor with the City of Austin, that very top first link there. That's important. There's several other things here, temporary disconnects, contractor disconnect program. There's a few things here you want to look at potentially, but for meter variances, there's a link here. That's an email address that you may want to reach out to if you need to talk to them about meter variances. Development Service Department, DSD permitting questions can go there. Make sure you reach out to them for that type of non-solar permitting question that you may have. Next link, next page, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let's see, what do we have here that's critical? The number of email addresses here you'll probably want to reference. There is a reference here for a link to the greater than 500 kilowatt interconnection application. There's 311 and a phone number for questions on permits again. Further down, follow up on the status of a rebate. There's an email address and a phone number there. Please look at the website first for some of your questions to see if you can't get it answered first, and then contact us if you're not finding what you need. There's a lot of resources available, a lot of information that you can go to get some answers and save some cycles on waiting for responses to emails or phone calls. But if you can't find that information, please do reach out to us. And I believe that covers all of it. Did I miss anything? We have
Thank
any
you,
other
Michael.
questions?
Sounds good. Thanks, Michael.